Tales from the Slide Deck! Fantastic. Well, gentlemen, welcome back to another fascinating episode of Tales from the Slide Deck. We're glad to have you. I'm Zach.
Good. I'm Ryan. Great to be back. Thanks for having me, Zach.
Of course. I'm Tay-Rob.
Tay-Rob, awesome. Welcome back, guys. It's election season, which is on everyone's mind. I don't know when this episode's going to come out. Maybe World War III has already happened, and
they're doing World War III.
They're doing World War III. They're eating the dogs. We're fresh off the debate, which is like, it was such a funny debate. Well, guys, as the world knows, every election year is also an Olympic year. So that's where we're going to be hanging out today. In what is,
except for that one
titled For the W. Okay. And it starts us off in chapter 1. This one has guys, we got chapters. We got chapters in a Zach episode. So buckle up, boyos. Let's kick this thing off. All right, chapter 1. Duck on a rock.
Whoa, Grandma's got game.
Grandma's about to posterize old Bobby over here. All right, next slide.
Is this in Canada?
No, this is James Naismith. This is actually Dr. James Naismith. I should.
He's a doctor.
Mm-hmm. A doctor. He's a physician, actually.
A Canadian doctor at that.
A Canadian doctor at that. Yeah. He went to the University of Montreal, and then in the 1890s he moved to the good old U.S. of A., the red, white, and blue, where he moved into, funny enough, Springfield, but Massachusetts.
There's
not the dog eating town, but he moved into a Springfield in Massachusetts, where he began to work at the YMCA as a teacher. And while he was working at the YMCA commissioned him to make a new game for the people to play, for the kids to play.
This is like when you're at any sort of day job and suddenly it's like, hey, do you want to do a new task that you like sure, it's semi-related to what you're doing. Just make something fun. Make up something fun for a bunch of people to do for like 6 hours.
He got saddled with a project where they're like, I don't know, you figure it out.
Exactly.
I can see where basketball that's where it came from. Oh, I got some baskets, got some balls. Throw the fucking ball in the basket.
Most of the time in a work project, it's like, you tell me what to do, man. Like, you get paid more than me. You tell me what I need to do. I perform that task, like, end of transaction. I hate projects.
He's just there. I'm a fucking doctor.
Yeah.
I'm a physician. And you're having me come up with arts and crafts?
Mm-hmm.
So
I hate a project where they're like, you do it. Yeah, you figure it out. It's like, great.
You got this.
Hey, can I commission you to do this thing I don't want to do?
Mm-hmm.
So next slide. He took it, he created this game that was supposed to be played in the winter as a way to get kids inside, but it was supposed to be low to no contact. So he wanted to avoid games that involve dribbling, like soccer or like hockey. These are games where if you're trying to move the ball across a court or a field, there's more inclination for you to be in contact with somebody else trying to get the ball. So he started with the large soccer ball and took from the game Duck on a Rock, which, guys, for our 2024 brains, I want you all to envision how this game was played. As you can see the rules here, you find yourself a good stone. You make one person the guard who will put the stone on top of a large rock. Everyone else must line up about 15 feet away from the large rock. Each person in line takes turns throwing their stone at the guard's stone, trying to knock it off the rock. If you knock the guard's stone off the rock, then the guard would go to the end of the line and wait for his turn to throw. If you miss, you have to run to get your stone before the guard can tag you. If you get tagged, you become the guard. So, as this game evolved, people realized if you lobbed the stone and hit the rock, you had more time to go retrieve your stone if it did not hit the rock. And this is where Naismith got the idea to arch something into a destination and where the peach basket came from. So he took this large soccer ball and gave it a destination, a peach basket that he wanted to raise 10 feet, a difficult amount into the air, so it wasn't a very easy thing to do. And as you can see on the right side here, this is what the original game of basketball is more relatable to netball. If you guys are familiar, I should have put a photo in here of.
I've never played netball. Is it basically basketball but with no dribbling?
Basketball with no dribbling and no backboard.
Okay.
It's like handball, but you're shooting at a net.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't move.
I never
so
played
you
handball.
throw it to somebody down court. They got to catch it and then pivot and then stop. They can't walk or run or do anything like that. That's the original of the game. And actually, this middle photo is the first hoop, the first ball and hoop in the gymnasium of the YMCA in Springfield, Massachusetts.
They put that up high. Like your top right picture is like a bunch of nuns, like, you know, trying to throw into something that's like 7 feet high. But that peach basket is
that door's only 4.5 feet tall.
Oh, yeah, okay, it's a little.
It's actually the one from the Shire.
Here I was thinking it was like an 18, 19 foot hoop, and it was just like, good luck dunking that.
I mean, it's probably good like 14 feet.
It actually is 10 feet. I have it written down here.
That in that picture, it's 10 feet.
It's 10 feet, yeah. So that's
that
about
is like a
that's a 5 foot door.
That's a 5 foot door. Damn, I wasn't far off.
Okay.
So
we need Saddam Hussein for scale.
So the first game was played on the winter solstice of 1891, December 21st. And by 1898, there was a league for the National Basketball League in Philly that had occurred. So over 7 years, this game went from being just in this one YMCA into being now a league of people playing locally, yes, in Philadelphia, but still nonetheless an organization has been created for a game that was brought out of thin air.
That's pretty dope.
An association, if you will.
This was actually it was the NBL. The NBA would come around in the 1946.
Okay.
So for my next slide, I have the original 13 rules of basketball, which actually don't matter at all. But I thought if it mattered for anybody who wanted to know exactly the way that Duck on a Rock had rules, these are the original rules for basketball. No traveling. There's fouls if you try to obstruct people from getting the ball.
Oh yeah,
no shouldering, pushing, tripping. Oh, I forgot.
This is like the stereo instructions for basketball. This is how you would describe basketball to an alien.
Exactly.
Just kind of like if they have the concept of a ball, like, okay, it must be thrown. It may be thrown, it may be batted, but never with the fist.
Number 7, I feel like, has been deprecated out of the game.
If either side makes 3 consecutive fouls, it shall count as a goal for. Yeah. So it was.
You don't get points.
I think it was 1895 is when people were just like, actually, we're gonna dribble the ball. Thanks, James Naismith. But we got it from here. We're gonna figure this out. And it was
technically, what is dribbling but throwing the ball at the ground?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's within the rules.
Yeah.
Ain't no rule says a dog can't throw the ball at the ground.
Not at all.
So, as of today, basketball is international. James Naismith lived long enough to see the game he invented be played in the Olympics. And as you can see here, this is from all kinds of different countries. This is Giannis in Greece. This is...
Holy shit, basketball's gone worldwide.
Tony Parker from France. And then the rest of them, I couldn't tell you. There's...
But did it just explode worldwide, like still in your late 1800s, early 1900s,
yes.
or
as early as I think 1939, you have the FIBA competition holding world championships. So it just spread like wildfire.
Is that Dirk? Is that Dirk up in the upper left-hand corner?
Upper left? No.
Dirk Nowitzki?
No, it's not. It's the beard. Beard is not Dirk, but that is a white guy. That's a tall white guy.
Is international misspelled, or is this a play on? Is this a pun that I'm not getting?
I think it's just like how like the French or
International,
something.
dude. It's
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just another language.
It's just
okay.
it's just another language.
All right, cool.
So now it's 215 countries are affiliated with FIBA, which is the Federación Internacional of Basketball Association, and it's like FIFA but for basketball. That's how big it is. It's 1936 is when you get basketball introduced into the Olympics for men.
Oh shit.
1976 for women. And to the way it affects America, I mean, just from our little like lens, how big basketball has gotten in the world. The last 6 MVPs of the American Basketball League, the National Basketball Association, have not been American-born people. You have 3 to Nikola Jokic, Serbian. You have 1 to Joel Embiid, who is from Cameroon, I believe. And you have Giannis, my king right here, who is
The Greek freak.
The last American to
okay.
win the most valuable player in the NBA was James Harden in 2018.
Yeah, I don't know who James Harden.
That's okay.
I was trying to make a James Corden joke, and I just like I left that.
He's a bearded guy. was a Sonic at one point in his career.
Okay.
He was drafted. He was the first draft pick of the Thunder when they were in Oklahoma City. So technically not a Sonic, but would have been a Sonic if they were still in Seattle.
Yeah. In the good universe.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So that's going to bring us to chapter 2, the Corinthian spirit.
Oh.
And this, we're going to take a step back in everything to the next slide, in case we need it for audio purposes, to the early 1800s.
Okay.
Where we're at the tail end of the Industrial Revolution, when you have people working incredible hours. There's no unionization. There's just people laboring and living their life through the means of supporting their family and things like that. So in 1844, there was the Stamp Act that was passed, which gave men a day off for God, Sunday off for God, out of the factories as a mandated. So, of course, this is a weird world. So there's also been places where you have more days off. There's some places that, okay, there's a randomization to the Industrial Revolution, but across the board, you got one day off, a Sunday, for God. And what men started to do was to use this to this reprieve from work to be able to have fun, enjoy their time. And this is when you start seeing organized sports start. You start seeing games happen. You start see organization of sports amongst commoners, amongst workers, people who are just trying to get their steam off, right?
What are they going to do? Spend it with their bitch wives?
Exactly. Back at the job site, no more nagging wife. And as time goes on, more people are able to refine their skill in sport, and you see a divide between people who are hardworking laborers that are using the sport in their free time and people who are now being compensated strictly to play the game. When you start to see organizations of sports, you are seeing a whole community of people being paid for it, and they're the only people with access to higher competition, because they are now you're eliminating a class of people that are doing it out of the spirit of themselves. And that is the Corinthian spirit, is the spirit of amateurism in sports. So there's a lot of things going on here. We have boats, we have a weird logo, we have smoke coming out of a London town, I want to say.
I think that's London, like last Tuesday.
Yeah. Today, present day.
This is a color photo, actually.
The year 2040X, London.
So this is where a divide between the working class and this is where a class war, not war, but a class difference, a gap gets created. You have people that are creating organization of sports strictly for the amateur, the one that is not there, that has not used their time to be paid and to be compensated for their skills. So they're limited to a ceiling of how much time they can dedicate to this craft. And then you have your
Yeah.
professional, what we would call professional sports, people who are paid to fine tune their skills for the entertainment of others.
The select few out of everyone who's playing some sort of organized sport.
Well, the reason that there was only amateurism in sports for this period of time, and a period of time extending like hundreds of years previous to this, was the fact that like you had to have free time.
Yeah.
If you were a serf who was like working a field for your lord, you had no free time with which to engage, or very little free time with which to engage in sport. But your lord, who just sits back and collects, the grain that you get in you give him in taxes.
They need lots of leisure, recreation.
He gets to play that stupid game that then becomes tennis back in France.
Exactly.
And as the Industrial Revolution brings about like a middle class, a more robust middle class than just the merchant class of medieval and Renaissance Europe, there is people who have time and
a strict chunk of time
And
that they need to do something to like pass
and
the time.
the resources to which like, this time is now free. I don't have to spend it cultivating like sustenance or like getting monetary compensation for my labor to feed my family. I have leisure time, and with that I will engage in sport.
So golf was one of the first sports to hold competitions for amateurs and professionals, creating the tournament divide between the two, so they weren't going head to head against each other. Because as you can see, as we would talk about with steroids, a baseball player playing roided out going up against a player that is not roided out does not seem like the same kind of competition. You're not going to get the same results. Doesn't seem like a fair playing field out there. So there's now this is something that's gonna go on for over 100 years, the divide between amateur sports and professional sports. And it leaked itself into golf, where they separated the two, and in yacht clubs. That's why we have the yachts up here, because a lot of yacht clubs, especially in Europe, get their name from the Corinthian spirit, that they would do these, which, I mean, to own a yacht is still a very privileged life to live.
Oh,
But
yeah.
to
gotta have
go
money to
through
have a
like
boat.
competitive sailing in yachts and to still be an amateur of that sport, they created these yacht clubs that were specifically for amateurs, people who were doing it with their own time to better themselves in that skill, rather than the ones who are paid by your king, your higher ups, to be competitive for their wealth, a paid hand. And then you have the spirit emerging itself in the established professional sports with the Corinthian Spirit Football Club, which merged with the Casuals FC at one point. But this was a soccer club in England, or in UK, that played under the intention that they would never disgrace the game by penalty of another person. So if a whistle was blown, someone gets a yellow card, then they're given a free kick. The goalie would leave the goal. They would let them have the free kick to all degrees, because they would never believe that they would go out and actually commit a penalty. So if the other team is rewarded a free kick, then by all means have it. It is meant to be. The other team would not hurt them intentionally. So when they are given a free kick, their captain would just launch the ball over the goalpost.
Oh, it was like a gentleman's duel.
It was
like,
a gentleman's.
Nope, I'm not going to guard the goal, and nope, I'm going to intentionally miss. But that's the sportsmanship of it. But was this like an amateurs league, or was this professionals too?
This was an amateur league that turned an amateur team in a professional league. So
Gotcha.
it was your rogue team. So that pushes one would ask, if you're going to be playing a sport and you're offered to be paid for it, what would keep you in your amateur status? What would make you want to not be paid for your efforts, right? What is the bargain on the scales? Like, get paid a bunch to do the sport you love, or be an amateur? What makes to be an amateur so tantalizing? Why would people do it, right? For the spirit of the game is one, but also because you want to be an Olympian. The Olympics,
the ultimate goal.
Yes.
They don't get money.
The Olympics up until 1992 was an amateur sports competition.
Oh.
You could not be a professional in any sport and participate in the Olympics to receive gold, silver, or bronze.
For real. What the dream team, bro? I mean, I don't mean. I'm sorry if that's.
We'll
jumping
get there,
ahead.
but
You can
yes,
cut that out.
it is the dream team in
Like
1989
burst
due
those
to
doors open.
due to the Western or the Eastern Bloc creating full-time athletes as a state sanctioned job.
Mm.
Bunch of
The
Ivan Dragos.
the Olympic Committee determined that I guess professional athletes can compete in competition for medals. And that's when the Dream Team came in 1992, the first eligible Olympics, and they creamed it. They just like were shit brick houses. They took down everybody.
I mean, there was like attempts at before this, much to the chagrin, like not the 1990s were much to the chagrin of a guy like Jim Thorpe.
Who is Jim Thorpe?
Jim Thorpe's like one of America's greatest athletes. He played like every sport professionally and was an Olympian. Like he played amateur and professional football, baseball, basketball. He was a track and field athlete. Like truly
an Olympian.
one of our most dominant athletes of all of history.
So the Olympics is one committee that forced you to keep your amateur status if you wanted to compete. That's why a lot of NBA players never participated in the Olympics up until 1992. And I think still today it's golfing and boxing are the only games that you can't participate in as a professional athlete. I think that's why we don't see like a Floyd Mayweather be in the Olympics. I'm not too sure. I didn't look up to that because I'm trying to talk about basketball here. We're talking about basketball here. And then you have...
Are there loopholes though? Like people who are professionals and just being like, "Oh no, I'm taking that season down into like the casual leagues." Oh, just right around the Olympic year.
Well, there is. That's what the AAU is. It's an organization of it's the Amateur Athletic Union, which is a place for players to play, when they're not a professional. They also help them get to the Olympics. They help them right out of college from the NCAA. It's a level for athletes to play when they're not ready to give up on that, and when there's still a door enough open that they graduate from college and on an off year of the Olympics. They need to stay limber fit to be able to compete for the Olympics in 2 years. AAU is there. AAU is basketball. It's all kinds of sports. And then you have the NCAA, which has for a long time upheld the amateur status of players because it is a college organization, and they want to believe that a scholarship is the compensation for the athleticism these players give.
So they're scumbags.
They're scumbags. Yeah.
Absolute scumbags.
And
I'm sure there's an episode that Zach will do in the future where we can really dig deep into that.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah.
But I mean, I know nothing about sports. I'm like, yes, I've heard of the NCAA, but I have no idea.
There's some real scumbags.
Okay.
Let me tell you what.
College soccer scumbags.
I mean,
all
FIFA's,
sports.
FIFA's also a bad little like cousin.
I mean, all athletic unions are scumbags.
Yes.
Like, there's no morally purist.
No. But there's levels of scumbaggery, and I
Yeah.
assume like a FIFA and an NCAA are off the charts.
Yeah.
I
Or,
mean,
like,
Well, the
college
NCAA is
sports in
crazy
general.
because it's making money off of like young people's backs, whereas FIFA is like, you're an adult and you got to make this decision. But FIFA is way, way bigger of a deal because it's international, NCAA.
NCAA makes like their exploitation is predominantly off of the performers, like the athletes in the sport, whereas FIFA or necessarily the Olympics, their exploitation stems from like the host site of where the sport is going to be happening. Less so about the athletes.
Moving on, we're going really through this, boyos, to our next chapter, chapter 3. Titled One Small Step. So we're going to talk about women today. I hope we do a good job. We're going to talk about women in sports. I also hope we do a good job of that. But to talk about women in sports, we have to talk about Title IX. Are you guys familiar with Title IX?
Absolutely not.
Kinda.
Title IX is an amendment to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, is it? Yeah, 64.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
as we know with civil rights, it was, recognizing people as people that weren't white as people, right? And what's
It was
really
giving people who aren't us,
Yeah.
who don't look like us, status as citizens.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
full-fledged status as citizens.
It was putting in protections for laws also not to be made to enforce. Yeah.
So what is great about American government is that it can't just be good vibes. It has to be dissected word by word. So as this is for Title IX, there are so many titles that came before adding recognition to this group of people because it was never recognized in all of the wording before. Say like Title VI. Title VI prohibits discrimination on federally funded private and public entities based on race, color, nationality, or national origin, or but not sex. Never does it come up sex. So obviously people could have been discriminated still based on their sex, simply because it doesn't say those words. Like it's which brings in Title VIII, which banned several forms of discrimination in employment, but not in education. So when we find Title IX, it covers both of those. And as it says here, no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. And
big deal. But Zachary boy,
yeah,
that says Title IV.
that's not. Is it X? Is X?
It's X. It's X.
But hang on,
Zachy boy, scratch that out. You can fix this right now.
We can fix
so
it.
You can fix this right now.
I put this in last second. Okay, so it says Title IX. It always said Title IX.
Don't
Yep,
you ever
always.
fucking think it said Title IV.
No, not no point did this say Title IV. So this is Patsy Mink, Patsy Takamoto Mink. She's of Japanese descent, from Hawaii. She's born in Hawaii, and she's the first.
Democrat.
She's a Democrat, very much. Oh no! Where'd my thing go?
Oh shit! Oh fuck!
Oh,
Oh
shit,
god!
fuck.
Oh no!
There she is.
Holy
There's
fuck.
the D for democracy.
Oh yeah.
So in 1972, which is 8 years after the Civil Rights Act was passed,
4 years after LBJ and his big hog stepped down from government.
Yep.
She is introduced to Edith Green and Birch Bay, who Birch Bay
The
being,
water slide place.
What's that?
The water slide
The water
place?
park?
Yeah, exactly.
Or is it a different Birch Bay?
Democrat out of Indiana? Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's a reference for only people who live in northwestern Washington.
Yeah.
So I hope amongst our
It doesn't even have a water park anymore, Taylor.
What?
It closed down.
They shut it down.
They shut it down like
Good.
it was so forgettable. They shut it down like 5 years ago, Taylor.
Because of
definitely got a
wokeness, I
concussion
bet.
there.
It died before COVID.
I mean, I definitely got a concussion on the black hole.
Oh my
once.
god.
Oh, I definitely bled a lot, like on a scraped knee in the
Yeah,
lazy river.
I smashed my head on the top of the black hole. So I'm not super surprised. It was sort of like an action park, but way not as cool. For those of you who, amongst our dozens, and I repeat, dozens of listeners who've never been to the Canadian fucking border, essentially.
All you have to do is paint a word picture, Taylor. Imagine, if you will,
Imagine if
a
you-
shady water park.
Imagine, if you will, a guy who
We're
lives
the
next
only
to Canada.
concessions. Yeah, it's 5 minutes away from Canada.
And he's got a surplus of plastic tubes.
A man, a plan, a tube, Birch Bay.
Yep.
That's the documentary.
Everyone's fucking 8th grade field trip.
Yeah.
So in 1970, not pictured here, Edith Green, Democrat senator out of Oregon, held several congressional hearings about sexual discrimination in education. She would hear stories about women who were denied salaries because their husband had a salary. So why would they need money?
Okay.
And engineers who were told that they were too pretty to take on some of these classes. And Patsy herself, as a woman in the 60s, was faced with a lot of discrimination. She went to the University of Nebraska and was rejected from every medical school that she applied to after graduation. And then she went to the University of Chicago to study law, and she was only one of 2 women in her class to graduate. And when she tried to open up her own law practice, people wouldn't give her work, so she had to accept whatever would come. She was accepting bargains as fish for payment to represent people in law because people didn't trust that a woman or want to pay a woman to do law for them. So she's elected by the Hawaiian people into Congress. And in 1972, she's the one that backs this Title IX that is later, after she's passed away, is named after her, the Patsy Mink Equal Opportunity in Education Act. So in 1972, when this is passed, 42% of college students were female, but 98% of sports budget was going to men at the time. So there's only 2%. And so I want to just say, like, if everybody's thinking like, oh, this is the pinnacle, this is the moment when female sports in college occurred, it's not, because there's been examples of female sports. It just wasn't common, right? It wasn't something everywhere all the time, or because there wasn't money being given and there wasn't no one told people to do this, so they didn't do it. But there were places where they didn't have to be told to do this. They just did it because they wanted to do it.
Not every federally funded and state funded school felt beholden to have women's athletics.
Yeah,
but there were ones that did, and I want to highlight that because even in 1959, FIBA had women's championships. So I'm jumping the gun a little bit here to talk more about basketball when we're starting at...
Yeah, but they're like gay and European, so of course they had ladies basketball.
But what this did, when Patsy and when Edith and Birch Bay, when they all set out to make Title IX occur, they had no idea it would affect sports. This was strictly from their experiences. Patsy being a woman, not wanting the next generation of educated women to be discriminated against because they are a woman. So that's where they came in from. But the wackiness of the law and government, that this...
Semantics, it's education program.
Exactly. So then, ipso facto, if men are being given the opportunity for sports, women need to be given the opportunity for sports in federally financed schools. And this,
which is pretty much all of them.
Yeah, pretty good call.
Private universities.
What this gives you is our next slide. A class of women who were given the opportunity at the educational level to learn the game of basketball, and it creates a talent pool of people who went on to represent the country at the 1976 games. The 1976 Olympics were the first time women's basketball was introduced into the Olympics. And these are the women that represented our country at those first games. I believe it was Montreal that the first women's Olympic competition took place in.
This is a Summer Olympic sport?
Summer Olympic sport, yes.
Okay.
Which is weird because it's played in the winter.
Yeah, that's kind of like, that's why I've always found like about the Olympic basketball kind of funny is like, this is traditionally like a indoor where it's the wintertime sport, but we play it in the Summer Olympics.
Yeah. It's not wintry enough.
It's not skiing or fucking hockey.
Exactly.
Or
it's not snowboarding, sexy.
I guess.
It's just, it's hot and sweaty. And so these ladies were given the opportunity to play for their country. They weren't, encouraged, I guess is what it is. They were never expected to qualify for the games because there's been no representation of women basketball in the country. So when they did qualify, they weren't given much expenses for their travels, for their practice facilities, for where to stay. It was kind of, and to top it all off, since there are no pockets of women sports, these were strangers. They were playing the game together for the first time leading up to the Olympics. Together, I should say, as a team. And basketball, if you're unaware, it is a team sport where you selfishly pass the ball to other people, giving them the opportunity to score. It's not like baseball where the opportunity is at your fingertips all the time to hit a home run. You can score a run every single time if you are good at hitting the ball. In basketball, you need to strategically share the basket. You need to share the ball to be able to defeat the other team. You need to create plays and move your body and work as a team. So that's one thing that had their backs up against the wall. So when they go up against Czechoslovakia for the silver medal and win by 15 points, no one expected that to occur. And that's just what happened. This is the silver match game that, unfortunately, Soviet Union won the gold.
They were dominating.
Yeah, but they were on like horse steroids at that point.
Yeah.
And they needed something to win for, because I think no, they didn't. They weren't in Afghanistan yet. That's later.
Not quite yet.
Not quite yet. They're thinking about
We're
it.
gonna talk about that.
But also, I mean, we're talking about like Title IX and all that, bringing women's sports widespread into universities. Only what'd you say? Like 2 years before this?
4 years. So
4
as
years.
I envision
So
it,
you
it's
kind
like
of have some team to some time to at least like, okay, we've seeded through who can play basketball the best, and now when
which it's a
women's
long enough time
basketball
for
opens
programs
up.
to be created, right? And for the flow,
Yeah.
to, like even if
to develop
exactly
as well.
to develop,
Talent to be scouted.
So some of these names are going to come up later on the side here. I just want to honor everybody. Patricia Head, that's Pat Summitt. She turns into Pat Summitt later on, if that's a name you're ever familiar with. We're not going to talk about Pat Summitt today, but we are going to talk about.
Is that Taylor's mom, Patricia Roberts?
Yep.
It's not. My mom's name is Kim, but she could be a distant cousin or aunt. So
Okay.
I salute her.
We're going to talk next about a woman who was not on this team because she was too young. Carol the Blaze Bajowski.
That's a fucking dope name.
That's a
name and a half. Blazowski.
I believe it was in 1978. She graduates from college, so she was a sophomore or junior during the first Olympic Games for women. And she's obviously a product of somebody that has been shown. She's been shown women can go to the Olympics and represent the country in the game of basketball, which she has been, influenced in. So Carol maintains an amateur status by playing at the AAU, so she can be an Olympian in 1980. She will qualify, hands down, but the United States would boycott the 1980 Olympics due to the USSR's involvement in Afghanistan, I believe. Or no, it's because
Isn't it funny how
it's in Russia, right? Wasn't the 1980 Olympics in Russia?
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how we cause problems?
It's so funny.
And then act all surprised by them.
Yeah.
It was in Russia. So Carol misses out. Carol's career, the only outlet she has is to go to the Olympics or to remain in AAU. And she gets to miss out on a gold medal opportunity. But she's a very accomplished person within the means that she was given as an American, a professional basketball player in America. Well, technically not professional because she never got to play in a professional level.
And the AAU don't pay shit, so she was holding down some sort of job while this was also going on.
Mm-hmm. She went to Montclair State College in New Jersey and was a 3-time All-American. She was one of the only people to score more than 50 points in Madison Square Garden.
Shit.
Dang.
She joined the national team in the 1979 World University Games and the FIBA World Championship in Seoul. She was a very accomplished person. She is in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame for all of her accomplishments she had outside of a professional level. So Carol is a great example of the highest point a woman could get to at the time. Another great example is someone who was a part of that gold medal or the silver medal team in 1976, Ann Myers Drysdale, who was such an accomplished woman that she was signed a contract with the Indiana Pacers, a men's basketball team. She signed a $50,000.
Was it like a publicity stunt sort of deal?
It was not. Although one of the women from the silver medal Olympic team was drafted into the NBA as a publicity thing. Like they were trying to make a ridicule out of the NBA draft. Somebody drafted a mascot. Another team drafted Lucia Harris, the woman. She was the only woman to be drafted in the NBA. And it was like, because there's too many rounds and the players that were getting to the bottom didn't matter anymore. So the NBA teams would just draft jokes. And it got to a point when when a woman was drafted, that's when they said no more horseplay.
But no, did she? I feel like I would have heard about this if she actually played a game for the Pacers, right?
She did not. She did a 3-day tryout, received all of her $50,000, and never played for the Indiana Pacers. But
not a bad check. But
yeah, exactly.
But your dreams are definitely cracked at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I'm not sure. I know, like, the gesture of playing in the men's league it seems like a kind gesture, but Lucia Harris knew that she was being insulted by being drafted into the NBA. So she never pursued it whatsoever, never took them up on the offer, denied it completely. So it was also like condescending, I feel like, for some people to be drafted in the men's league at a time when there was no women's league. Like,
yeah.
But Ann Myers is also a very accomplished person based on the ceiling that they did have, that the room that they had to occupy in the mode of their sport. Ann was the first woman to get a 4-year scholarship at UCLA. She is the first person in NCAA Division I history. This is going to fall on weird ears, but she's the first one to record a quadruple double stat line in a game. Only 4 people have done it. Quadruple double is when you score double digits on multiple stat lines. There's 5 total stat lines.
Like assists, rebounds,
scoring.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
2 points, 3 points.
It's blocks, points, assists, steals, and what's the last one? Assist, blocks, points, steals, and then the 5th one. And then the
rebounds.
Rebounds. Exactly.
Is this what Ice Cube meant by a triple-double?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
When he messed around?
Yeah.
On that good day?
Yeah. No, I feel like another puzzle piece has fallen into place for a good day.
So he just got double digits in 3 of those categories.
A little bit of the coloring book got some color in.
Yeah.
Ann Myers did better than Ice Cube on that very good day.
But a quadruple double is only 4 people in history, you said?
Quadruple double, only 4 people in history. 3 of them women, 1 of them is a man. Quite a feat, quite impressive.
Yeah.
But I think a portion of that is how the pro league responds to the amateur athletics in basketball as well, because you theoretically only have to play 1 season of NCAA anymore, and this is only like a 21-year-old rule in the NBA that you have to play 1 season of college basketball before you can be drafted in the league.
Yeah.
And so in women's basketball, there you find significantly more 4-year college players than you do in men's basketball.
Exactly, because the men's league is just a pipeline into the NBA, so they're turning and burning players and they're getting drafted on such a small sample size, whereas the women's leagues they're a huge sample size on what you're getting. So what Ann and Carol share in common is that the Olympics was where they could shine. This is where their celebrity would come in. You can be really good in high school, you can be really good in college, but when that's your final stage, what makes you keep going forward? And it's the Olympics. So in the case for Carol, and what Ann was trying to repeat to do was go to the Olympics. But in 1980, the boycott halted Carol's career and then Ann as well. So both of them, though, also share in common that they were the first round draft picks of a up and coming brand new league for women's basketball. You know it. I know it. It's the WBL and the WABA, right? Everybody knows about the WBL and the WABA.
Yeah.
I'm a huge WABA fan.
See, I weeble, I wobble, and I do fall down.
Yeah, which unfortunately these leagues weren't rivals to one another because, well, they didn't exist at the same time based off of the infographics I'm seeing here, and WABA only existed for 4 years before 1 year before I was born.
I'm sure this is this is an okay gentleman who's leading the wobble, but he does look like he's gonna sell me a mediocre cheeseburger.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. He's gonna ask you how he can get you going home with this Omaha steak.
He's gonna ask me how I can get into a fucking Chevy Celebrity with 0 down.
0 down. He's gonna show me the power steering on this Volvo.
Mm-hmm.
This my gosh. This is Bill Byrne.
Oh,
Bill
Not
Byrne,
the comedian from Boston.
not the comedian.
that's Bill Burr.
Got it. Okay. I'm locked in again, boys.
He is an entrepreneur. He has a lot of sports entrepreneurial endeavors. One of them being the National Scouting Association, which was a organization that helped amateurs get into AAU and get into the Olympics. It prepped them from a economic standpoint. I want to say it was kind of a loophole-y thing to like make sure they're taken care of and to help them along the way.
You may not have an answer for this, Zach, but how does that make money?
Yeah,
I think
Because the people you're working for, they're amateur athletes, so they're not making dick all for fucking money.
Is it all concessions?
it's all
Like, is it cocaine? Is this a drug running?
It's
operation?
all from the 50-cent colas they buy in the lobby when they come in and out of your office.
Yeah.
And
the 25-cent peanut M&Ms.
This guy has definitely sold me a mostly ice cola.
Yeah.
I think it comes from the other end. Because the teams they play for still turn money because people come to watch the games and there is money being taken. So I think like this National Scouting Association works and is paid by the teams that are looking for amateur athletes to come play for them. It works in a scouting way like that. That's where I feel like the money comes from. But I also know it's not around anymore. So maybe it didn't make a lot of money.
I feel like it didn't. I feel like there's a reason he moved on to different endeavors.
And it is I have a lot of things listed here of things he started that he was also part of the ending of them. Like a
water mattress sale company.
Moon shoes.
Yeah.
Like
he represented a law firm for people who were injured by Skip It.
Spike TV.
Spike TV. Hell yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Spike TV. Slam Ball.
No, but for real, what projects what ships did he christen and also sink on?
DeLorean. This was DeLorean's top salesman for 2 years.
Well, these are all sports related, so they're very ESPN 8 the Ocho type sports. Like the United Professional Softball League, which merged with the American Professional Slow Pitch Softball League. There's the World Football League that lasted 1.5 seasons that he was the commissioner of, and he owned the team, the Chicago Fire. So there's that. He also founded the Columbus Bucks, which was a semi-pro football team in the Midwest Football League. That's the one he served as commissioner for the league. The World Football League is where he served as
the big guy, but he also had his team.
Yeah. This dude's making hundreds of dollars.
He's making
with these
he's making threes of digits. But what he will be most known for is making the first professional women's basketball league, the Women's Pro Basketball League, WBL, which had a lot of steam behind it. There were 8 teams.
I mean, not all startups, find their footing.
Most of them fail.
But 8 teams, I mean, was this mostly like an East Coast thing? Or was there and also San Diego?
Probably part of the problem is it was East to Midwest. You have Chicago, Houston, Iowa, Milwaukee, Minnesota,
Okay.
Jersey, New York, and DC.
Not a bad market.
No. Travel is expensive, though.
It is. Oh yeah, everything's expensive.
So
Hobbies are expensive.
Ann and Carol were drafted to the WBL, but declined to play because they wanted to keep their amateur status and participate in the 1980 Olympics. That they then later found out they would not be able to participate in. So in 1981, the final season,
They, much like Michael Collins and other heroes of this podcast, wound up in the cuck chair.
they did. Yes. So they finally went to play, and then the league folded. And that's that. And that's our story on women's basketball leagues.
But there's a whole. What about WABA?
Oh, Waba, that's right. His second gasp of air. His second gasp of air with
They're dope.
Okay.
They're
He's
dope,
like-
imitating Jerry West logo.
I
but
will say they
there's a
definitely
ponytail.
found a better person for the logo. Because it's honestly, it took me about 3 minutes to realize that that's a lady shooting a basketball.
Honestly,
Because I was like, what the fuck is
this-
that? It's hair and arms holding a basketball.
That logo looks like I asked ChatGPT to give me a female response to the And One logo.
Yes,
I
dude.
think it's a.
When I first saw this, I was like, "This is
It's
too
a-
FUBU for me, dude. This is way too FUBU for me."
It's a biblically accurate dunk, is what that is.
Um,
The wobble, the waba is pretty good, but it feels almost ahead of its time.
It does,
logo-wise.
doesn't it?
It's significantly. I mean, it's.
It feels like something that could have come out in 1998, and I wouldn't blink an eye.
I mean,
Yeah.
the NBA had not that long ago adopted its logo with the silhouette of Jerry West. So, like, that's clearly inspiration that we have here.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is it's definitely of its time, if not ahead of its time, because it feels
It's not
very
good.
90s.
It's not great, but
it also feels like it's trying to sell me the first generation of Axe or Bod Man, like a dude cologne.
hmm
But of course, this will fail too. This will fail too, and Bill Byrne will be known for a lot of things. Starting the WBL will be one of the main things he's known for, even though it didn't last.
Selling
long.
used Suburbans.
also being known as that guy that got divorced again.
Yeah,
Known as that guy whose son hates him and is always leaving.
he's the Wisconsin divorce champion.
3 years running now.
He was the top salesman at Dwight Freeney's used Chevy car lot.
He does have a little Peyton Manning look to him, though, doesn't he?
A little bit. He's got the Peyton Manning like
He's got the
rectangle
5 head.
head. Yeah.
And he's got those serial killer glasses that have come back
Yeah,
into style.
we know he's a Midwest guy. It's those glasses.
Looks just like him.
Holy shit, I can hear him screaming, "Yo,
Omaha, 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 Omaha. Okay,
Omaha.
so
Bit.
Bill will
Yep.
go to create the first women's basketball league, but he will not be the first person to own a professional women's basketball. It will not be the first professional women's basketball team. Will not be from the WBL. That will be actually about 50 years earlier. The All-American Redheads. This
Oh, what?
The-
What?
Wait. This
Wait,
is
what?
From the 1930s?
1930s. 1930s.
Was it? Oh my God! It's like the Partridge Family, but of spurts.
These pictures are definitely not from the 30s though.
What?
Are they all related?
So the
That's a 70s Cadillac, dog.
no, dude, that's from the 20s, bro. I think you're mistaken. So there's confusion here. I get it. These are color photos. But the All-American Redheads were a barnstorming team, started in 1936, and they went for 50 years. So these are more modern images, but they did
Yeah.
start in the
Yeah.
30s.
Oh, is this like
I was
the-
also confused. I was just kind of like, wait, was this only a 70s thing? But no, I'm seeing like, it's Cigarettes McKenzie dribbling 2 balls at once.
I honestly
Look
think
at him
they-
go.
Babs
I think you're
O'Houlihan.
probably on the right path. Is this like a
It's razzle dazzle Rick. throwing his best. I don't know. He's just throwing his hands in the air like he really doesn't care.
I don't think there's a Rick there. To be honest, there could be a Rachel in amongst their midst. But was this like a contemporary of the Harlem Globetrotters?
It is exactly.
Oh,
So
okay,
this was a team that would travel across the United States. As you can see here too, they even advertised on their booklets that they're booking Alaska, Hawaii, Cuba, Canada, Mexico, USA for the 1958-59 season. So the gimmick was they're all red-haired, dyed or wigged, and they would go play against all kinds of teams, men's teams, high school teams, AAU style teams, professional teams. They were an entertainment. They'd play about 180 to 200 games per year across the country.
Shit, that's decent.
Could you imagine broads playing basketball? I gotta get a ticket.
Ladies playing basketball. Could you imagine?
Were they doing Globetrotter antics?
No, not that I know.
Like
It was still like it was men's rule basketball. It wasn't like look at Curly is gonna have 3 men stacked on top of him, shoot a basket kind of thing. This was still competitive, but it was still entertainment at the same time.
Okay, gotcha. Churched up competitive.
They didn't need fancy gimmicks. It was just the gimmick was broads doing sports.
It's the 20s. I just assumed it was like oops, all gimmick. And then the All-American Redheads come to your town and look at these gals play.
What do you mean you need more of a gimmick? It's ladies and they're touching a basketball. Come on, buddy.
They're doing sports.
So it would be 50 years that they would be in commission. Originally started by a dude named CM Ole Olson out of Crossville,
CM
Missouri.
Punk?
Yeah, CM Punk.
Yeah. Famous wrestler. He's a vampire.
It was based upon his wife, who had red hair, and she owned a bunch of salons. So she would get a bunch of ladies in there that wanted to play basketball or something to that degree. So they started recruiting amateurs, and he created this barnstorming idea to go town to town, profiting off of these ladies as one would do.
Dude, I love this era of sports. Just in general, this like sort of borderline professional amateur sports where there's like so much shit that's going on. I also have like an idea rattling around sort of in the same vein of this because like I also find this era of athletics where people are finally starting to get kind of paid to do it for like the first time since the Coliseum to be really, really intriguing as well. So I'm super happy to be along for this.
It is very Wild West because I've never thought about you're just a nomadic sports team. And we've answered a question we asked earlier. How do you make money with amateur sports? Well, you have a spectacle like this coming
fucking
to town.
by hook or by crook, man.
Yeah.
You just fucking find people with dollars and you take them and you show them some sports.
Either you go to the town and take their dollars or you book something like this to come in and play against your local boys in hopes of more people coming in and buying mostly the ice from Bill Byrne.
Yep.
And hopefully a used Chevy
hopefully
too.
he can send someone home in a Cadillac. With low miles.
And so this business was such a profit or like a hit in the South that CM actually opened up 2 other teams and was able to sell off the Redheads to another buyer as, a property that can be, someone else can profit off of these. So 2 other teams came about, and one girl that was a Redhead became the first woman to own her own professional basketball team, and that is Hazel Walker and the Arkansas Travelers.
Oh.
And
wait, that's a baseball team.
That's why I put it in here, dude. It's like, because Ryan, the Arkansas Travelers are a minor league team for the Seattle Mariners. And
okay.
It's
So
our
that's why we know of the Arkansas Travelers.
Exactly.
That's the only reason
I feel
know
like
that
I've seen
name.
because the name is somewhere in the back of my mind. That's because I watched somebody play a baseball game and you have to start.
You've watched me play the show,
Yeah.
and my creative players playing for the Travelers.
Which, I mean, obviously this is the chicken that came before the egg. And it's great it's like what you were saying earlier, Ryan, with the Ice Cube fuck around and get a triple-double. One more piece is like painted in the mosaic of like understanding things. The Arkansas Travelers, I didn't know had a rich history of a name. And I imagine this even is a play on something even older of like the settling of Arkansas. But to see that Hazel Walker, the first woman to own her own barn burner basketball team, also using that name and this is her legacy, is to have the same kind of show, but now it's a woman-owned thing. I had to put it in there because it's worth talking about. It's worth showcasing.
They were moving Plymouths as well. Look at that in the top right.
Oh my God.
That's the official Plymouth station wagon of the Arkansas Travelers.
Yes.
Was
yes.
she based off of like, I could just be like, the photos aren't great, but was she a like player, coach, owner?
Yes, she played
on this team.
Oh,
yeah.
She played in the Redheads, and then was basketball. Like, I'm gonna go start my own casino with hookers and gamblers, hookers and gambling. Made the Arkansas Travelers and was a player, coach, owner. Jackie Moon. She was a Jackie Moon of this. Yeah,
she got real tropical with it.
She got so tropical. So, I mean, we took a step back because I wanted to talk about the business of professional women's basketball, right? We have had a void for so long. Women have been able to play in the Olympics, and then the second opportunity to play in the Olympics is halted by politics. Stops America from participating in the Olympics. So then opens the door for a man to introduce a professional league, to finance a professional league that unfortunately doesn't work out. But there is a history of women in professional basketball that is unconventional to what the men's league has set as a prototype. But with those leagues falling, kind of did it backwards here, but I wanted to have like a surprise thing of, look at this old basketball program.
Yeah, no. There's a history. There's a history of like organized women's basketball, but it's sporadic and unique, and
they're moving satellite station wagons
and trying to just scratch out some niche, some way to keep it going, but it's not completely organized.
But what comes after the WBL and the WABA falling is our next chapter, which I will steal from Awful Announcing and call it the Burke Generation. Chapter 4, the Burke Generation. And it's named after my main girl, Doris. Doris Burke, it comes at a time in women's basketball where there wasn't a professional league and you've been denied the opportunity to go to the Olympics. So you have to find a new pathway to fit in. The room has gotten bigger because it has been brought to the forefront, but it is still hard to navigate the seas. She was very accomplished in high school, and she went to college at Providence, where she set the school record, men or women, for most assists, one of those stats in basketball. And she still holds, it's the second most overall at a Providence. Someone has beaten it since. I don't know who that was. But she decided not to try to participate in like the 1984 Olympics, and pursued a master's in education. She continued to go to college and did not pursue basketball afterwards, being that there wasn't a spot for her to go in a professional sense. So right after college, she began a career in radio broadcasting for Providence. I believe it was not too long after she got out of college, like 1990, she began broadcasting for Providence basketball games, which she was able to flip into broadcasting Big East games. And that sprungboard her to become the first woman to broadcast a New York Knicks game, a professional basketball game, on the radio.
She climbed that ladder fairly quickly.
She did.
She did for the NBA, which I'm told is like the WNBA, but for dudes.
That's what I've heard as well.
What?
That's not my joke. I stole that.
Oh, it's like the WNBA, but for dudes.
I'm told it's like the WNBA, but for all dudes.
That's the NBA is where this image in the bottom comes from. Doris got the privilege to be the first woman to color commentary a NBA Finals game, and she did the whole series with JJ Redick and Mike Breen. Dude, those are dynamite lines. Do you see how straight those are?
That was pretty good.
That was
pretty fucking
good. Whoa. So she has
try for a fourth just for the fuck of it.
Can you go?
All right.
Is there one on the guy on the left?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh God, yeah. Oh no, you got all of them, right?
Whoa! Bang!
All right, keep it rolling. We got to keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. Oh, there we go. Okay. Right there, fucked it up. All right. Back to the podcast. So Doris didn't get to pursue much more in the playing career, but she was able to navigate the game and be a part of the business and the sport in a way that no other woman had been. And she got to be successful in it. She's actually in the NBA 2K games. She has been since 2011. As a side commentator, she also gets to announce games. And what I think is so impressive of Doris, as I've come to love basketball a lot more in the last 15 years, is that she's always felt a part of the game. It's never felt like she doesn't understand the game or that she's not supposed to be there. She has been a better color commentator for the game than a lot of other people that are in higher positions. And for that, Doris Burke has been inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. Under the award is the Kurt Gowdy Award, which allows writers and broadcasters into the Hall of Fame for their addition to the game, for what they add to the game. And she's talked about feeling like feeling out of place, that she feels like she's an imitator, or what's that term called?
Imposter
syndrome, yeah, for being so heavily ingrained inside of a sport that she didn't get to do on the next level that a lot of the players she's talking about are doing. But what has been brought to her attention several times is what she has given to other people who may have lost their career due to an injury. She's given them the path that no one else has given, that she paved a way. I mean, a trailblazer, right? A trailblazer in a game that no one else, no other women had gotten into.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just open a door that was previously closed.
Exactly. I mean, I was gonna say, like her assists record, she set a bar so high that the only thing you can do is, look up at that, achievement and be like, okay, how much further can I go? Like, somebody did it, I can get it. She broke the glass ceiling, is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
Well, and sports commentary is still, I mean, less so here now. 40 years later than she got her start. Still quite a boys' club.
No, yeah, yeah.
In quite a few ways, but there's a significantly higher percentage. I'm thinking of like one of my favorite sports commentators, someone like Mina Kimes, who has no collegiate athletic background. She was a Yale business student who went on to write for Forbes, I believe.
Did she do NFL?
Post her college career, who then pivoted to become a sports writer, and is like one of the authorities in
just
sports.
Just
commentary.
loves the sports, knows how to broadcast those sports.
She's one of ESPN's biggest aspects at the moment. So people like Doris Burke.
It's crazy to see the rise of Mina too. Because you and I remember you when we were watching her on Le Batard's show when she was just getting into ESPN, and to watch her now become one of the big dogs, dude. One of the big dogs there. It's crazy.
And that's someone who has zero amateur or professional athletic career. This is someone who simply just has a passion for sports and a voice that people want to listen to.
And now, yes, and it's an impressive feat that a lot of people are being invited to the table of sports commentating, and without having to have these boys club prerequisites, right? It's great. So another person who is a part of the Doris Burke generation, the Burke generation, is we're gonna spend a smidge here. This is not the story, but we're gonna spend a smidge here because she's so freaking cool, and her name is Cheryl freaking Miller, dude. Y'all know about Cheryl freaking Miller?
Zach, this is. Nothing. I mean, you've had a lot of good images throughout the years of doing this podcast.
This one's good.
But this one's good. This one needs an accompanying guitar riff just right off the bat.
This is so sick. I was not going to have a slide just for this image, because the next slide is where we're going to talk about her. We just had to have a palate cleanser of this image.
You need the riff and scream from Pete Townsend at the beginning of The Who's "Won't Get Fooled Again."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow!
Yeah. Let's go, dude. So this is Cheryl Miller, and our next slide. She played at USC. She was really good at USC. She won the championship in 84 and 85.
Okay.
She would win the FIBA World Championship in Moscow. She won gold. And then a month later, she would win at the inaugural Goodwill Games. Are you guys familiar that Ted Turner tried to make an Olympics at one point?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I vaguely know this, but I don't know the full.
That insane asshole tried to get his fingers in fucking everything,
dude,
in the world.
We're going to do an episode on Ted.
He also maybe even possibly created his own weird Stonehenge that like Georgian conservatives want to blow up because they don't understand it and they hate it.
I love that. What a cool guy, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Cheryl also played in the 1984 Summer Olympics where she won gold as like a sophomore in college.
Hell yeah.
But at the end of Cheryl's career, she would have a lot of leg issues. I think she broke a knee, but it would keep her sidelined, which halted her from trying to achieve another gold medal, from stopping her from trying to really accomplish anything else in sports. And it took her to the sidelines where she became the assistant coach at USC just about a year after she had graduated from there. And then in turn becoming the coach at USC a couple years after that too. But what is pretty interesting about Cheryl Miller, she's one of the first female basketball players I remember hearing about due to like this Seinfeld episode, which we'll get to in a second. But
okay.
One cool thing about Cheryl, one accomplishment that I found very fascinating while looking up facts about the women in basketball is that Cheryl Miller scored 105 points in a basketball game one time.
Oh my God.
And it like I've never heard about this until like about a month ago when I was looking up stats on this. The ending score was 179-15.
That's fucking Wilt Chamberlain numbers.
It's beyond Wilt.
Yeah. They had to close down that school afterwards.
They did. They became a location of DeVry University.
And the All-American Redheads never played again.
Yeah. And so Cheryl is very she's like a shit talker. She's a really big shit talker, so I think that helped her a lot in this game. In fact, it was funny on this broadcast in the bottom corner that you have Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird were doing a watch along of the college Final Four, women's Final Four, and they had Cheryl Miller on, and Diana was like, "Oh, Cheryl, I heard that you scored like 100 points in the game once," and Sue was like laughing. She said 105, to which Cheryl, looking like this is when she's saying it,
stone cold,
and she's looking like this. She says, "And I didn't play the last 2 minutes." And and I saw
give her.
Like, oh my gosh, that is cold.
Cue the guitar riff and scream again.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff. I read a whole article on this. The coach Floyd Evans was ridiculed, right? Like, how do you keep a player in the game that scores 105 points? And as he kind of sounds it out. When
how don't you?
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is like his reasoning is sound. He wanted Cheryl to achieve when he found that she's hot, she's really heating up. Oh my gosh, she still is. She's not missing. He wanted her to achieve her career high, which was 77 points. She had scored 77 points in a basketball game. So he was like, we're going to let her go for at least 77 because she's hot. I mean, don't stop her, right? And in the fourth quarter, when he sent his assistant coach to go to the scoring table because they didn't have it wasn't technology to have individual stats live and everything, right?
They just got like three fucking court boys just like on top of each other holding the one so they can have a triple digit score.
The poor kid who was responsible for like switching the lights to like reflect score, he was fucking toast.
Yeah, he was cooked that day, dude. So by the time the assistant coach went to the scoring table to see, well, what's she at? She's got to be close. She was at 91 points. And at that point, he was like, well, she's really close to 100 and there's a lot of basketball left. So she kept going. And by the time it was 100, it was 105, 2 minutes left, 3 minutes left in the game. He's like, Cheryl, I think you should call it a day. Take a seat, buddy.
Let's get some Gatorade in you.
Yeah. But another interesting fact, rumor, it was once reported that she dunked in that game, like, I mean, you're cooking, you're not missing. Try to jump as high as you can. And if she
Just fuck
did,
around.
if she did actually dunk in that game, she would have been the first recorded woman to have dunked in a basketball game, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
She's an action movie star.
Exactly.
She's brought to life, you know.
And in hilarious
I'd argue,
fashion, go ahead.
A generational athlete, like your Jim Browns, your just like one of those like once in a generation athletes who are just like so far ahead of their competition that it's going to take 30 years before people are beginning to like scrape away at what they're able to accomplish.
So Cheryl was talented, and before we get off of this 105 game, it's worth noting someone we're going to talk about a little bit later. Lisa Leslie once scored 101 points in a single half of basketball.
Damn.
God damn.
Both of these games took place in California.
Did the team
Who were they up against? Like, and it's
I think she just
the
played
Grand
against
Eucharist Christian College.
the St. Mary's starting two with one woman on the bench up against Lisa Leslie.
Well, I mean, Taylor, you're not far off because she scored 101 out of the 102 points that were scored that half. It was literally just her scoring in the basketball game. It might as well have just been her on the court.
So one of her teammates presumably got fouled and made like one of the two free throws.
Yep.
Is that how that?
Exactly.
Is that how we get to 100?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
curious about the math, but I knew we'd get there. So she was just playing against herself, and she was winning.
Like truly, was the other team protesting like some horrible genocide going on in the world and just like didn't put a team on the court?
Bro, they were just that bad. South Torrance. So if you ever hear that, just know you're gonna have an easy day of basketball ahead of you. But to wrap up Cheryl Miller, the one cool thing about her is she actually is she is one of one. She is the only person to have a sibling in the in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. This is her brother, Reggie Miller.
Reggie Miller. Okay.
Whoa. Okay.
And
I've heard
Indiana
that
Pacers
name.
legend.
Indiana legend, exactly. Reggie Miller is in the Hall of Fame, but he had the opportunity to take his career to a professional level, which I feel like it makes it easier when you have a better sample size and you're playing against extremely talented other people. It's easier to showcase how talented you are. Whereas Cheryl just had to show herself in the Olympics and in high school and in college. Reggie had so much more time to showcase himself. And then this moment from Seinfeld is great. Cheryl Miller's brother? Because I think Reggie and Kramer got in a fight at the Knicks game. And he was like, I got in a fight with Reggie Miller. And Elaine says, Cheryl Miller's brother?
Pretty good.
It was
good.
okay.
That's
I
pretty
should have
good.
explained
That's
this
pretty good.
before. She
No,
was
listen, I
the more
needed the joke
talented person
explained.
in the house. In fact, on the night she scored 105 points, Reggie had scored his career high of 39, and he was in the car about to like gloat. You can see so many interviews of this. He tells the story of, he was like, I was feeling really good about myself. I was going to say like, guys, I scored the most points I've ever scored. And they were like, oh, really? How much? He's like, oh, I scored 39. He's like, oh, well, Cheryl did pretty good. And she's like, what? You score like 40, 50, 60? Oh, no, just 105. On his biggest night, she just outshined him still.
If only to be a fly on the wall watching the sidewalk ball between these two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What a competitive household. So we're going to move on to the next chapter, which is going to lead us into what we're really talking about. And it's can't talk about basketball without talking about the industry of basketball and how elevating one league elevates the sport. So this chapter 5 is called A Rising Tide, and it involves the great one, most people's GOAT, Michael Jordan. Because
he was in Space Jam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You might have also remembered.
Oh, he's the guy with the Hitler mustache.
He was the guy with the Hitler mustache.
I'm joking. I know who fucking Mike. Everyone knows who Michael Jordan.
He was also
Yes.
a baseball player in Birmingham.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Notorious gambler.
Mm-hmm. All-star gambler, Hall of Fame gambler, who also happened to play basketball.
It's not just the tide that's rising; it's also the amount of chips that are on the poker table.
It's also the amount of organized crime knocking down his father's door.
It's also him flying through the air.
Professional gambler Michael Jordan was a part of a booming industry that occurred in the 90s. When the Olympic Committee allowed professional athletes to participate in the games, it opened up American capitalism to the Olympics. What we all see when we look at the men's Olympic team is USA men's basketball, which is not the country of the United States. It is a branding of a bunch of companies sponsoring the United States team. So USA Basketball is a brand in itself, sponsored by Nike, Gatorade, Wheaties, all of these different companies propping up the image of USA Basketball.
The shirt company that made him do a Hitler mustache up in the upper left-hand corner.
Also, wasn't McDonald's involved in this, or they just have an Olympic seal?
They just sold a lot of cups. They just sold a lot of cups based off of this.
So what occurred in this when the men's basketball was able to be showcased across the world on a grand stage of the Olympics, the world was more involved in the NBA. In the 70s and 80s, I'm gonna do a presentation on this, but in the 70s and 80s, the NBA almost went bankrupt. If it was not for Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and the racial dynamics that was occurring, the NBA might not be around today.
It was also in part Lakers owner Dr. Jerry Buss, who was like, I'm going to make a fucking spectacle out of this sport. I'm going to turn it into just more like the shit that you go see at your high school. No, I'm going to get celebrities there. I'm going to put Jack Nicholson on the court side, and we're going to be doing cocaine in a club that right next to, like, that's a part of the stadium.
So with this influx of attention and money and sponsorships, more people wanting a piece of the NBA pie, rose funds. And what do you do with a surplus of money? You try to reinvest it to secure more funds. And at the time, David Stern was the commissioner of the NBA. And typically, in every day of the week, if we're not talking about this subject, I'm going to boo that man. But David Stern had an idea with the boost in men's basketball to fund a women's go at the Olympics. He wanted to use women Olympic coverage with the same influence that the USA men's had in 1992. The Dream Team set a tone that he felt he could copy and paste to a different
you can
the women.
Follow it up.
Yes, follow it. It's a sequel. They're doing a sequel. So he uses the women USA. He gets all of the sponsorships of USA men's basketball to agree to also sponsor the women's, to represent the women in the 1996 Atlanta games. And they hold off at first because they're not convinced. I mean, there's a lot of sexism with it. Like, I don't know, we don't want to be in business with what women can do. But David Stern, usually boo this man for having those Sonics be moved out of Seattle, but he pushed to have this sponsorship happen and have it as a showcase for women's basketball in the hopes that a league could be formed after this if all goes according to plan. So he hires Val Ackerman, who would oversee all of the operations of the women's basketball, and she would go out and get these great talents: Lisa Leslie, who we talked about earlier, Teresa Edwards, other notable Cheryl Swoops, Olympian Cheryl Swoops.
Great basketball name.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic basketball name.
Rebecca Lobo, another young talent that was hot to trot. And
but I mean, I'm a layman.
Yeah.
WNBA does not exist.
It
right
does not
now,
exist.
96. Okay.
Yeah. So all of these ladies are former collegiate athletes.
Gotcha.
And to my fault, just for the narration of this story, I've failed to talk about basketball in other countries because there are leagues in Europe that are being played. So a lot of the ladies that are playing
Serbia, Russia.
which they are establishing. It's interesting the timeline we're in right now, because this is 1996. 1992, professional athletes can be involved in the Olympic sports. So that means all the professionals that these other countries had can now participate. And it's a weird trying to catch up to the beat of where we're going to, I'm going to have a hard time explaining this, but I think Europe was way ahead on getting professionals into the Olympics than the United States was. So this is their first push to get professionals. And not only that, they didn't have professional women basketball players because there was no professional league. So other countries had these professional leagues already in place. So they had an upper hand in the Olympic competition. So that's what made the funding by the NBA and USA men's basketball so much more important, is these women had security on training facilities. They had accommodations taken care of for them. There was training staff behind them as well. That was an upgraded level. And this was the first.
They were throwing all the money at them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they also didn't have to like probably work a job like, you know,
exactly,
being a paralegal or something to like pay the bills while you're also pursuing your athletic endeavor.
And so this is our first exposure to what that kind of experiment can produce. And spoiler alert, guys, they won gold. This is them winning gold.
Wait, the team that had the woman that scored like 200 points in a fucking game?
They had an action star, somebody named Swoops.
You could have just fielded Lisa Leslie, from what I know. She would have fucking taken home gold.
That's so hilarious. I didn't think about that. Like, yeah, the lady that scored 105 points and a half just like 4 or 5 years ago won the gold medal. No kidding.
Wow.
So it was successful. That meant they had to form a team. Here's Lisa again. I'm a big fan of Lisa. And then this is Cynthia Cooper. Cynthia Cooper is going to become a big deal in a little bit here. But Lisa's an American who wants to play in America, and Cynthia is an American who wants to play in America, but has been playing for 5 to 10 years overseas. She's a great basketball player.
Okay.
Little does she know that in 5 years, someone's going to really not heed the advice of that shirt.
Yes.
On a Tuesday morning in New York.
But this is a cool image, isn't it?
We started with Afghanistan and we're continuing with Afghanistan.
So Val Ackerman hired Renee Brown to be like a Nick Fury, going across Europe looking for American girls playing overseas to bring them back to the United States, with the promise that the NBA is backing this, that now we have TV deals, we have all of these we have all these security blankets of money involved, that there's no way that this could just be a flash in the pan like the WBL or the WABA was. We have a lot of security from a very bustling partnership in the NBA.
There's a hope that it can go like somebody can have a dynasty. So somebody can at least win like 3 seasons in a row.
This league isn't going to fucking buckle.
Yeah, in a year.
In a year. And one, like, you're going to make more money. 2, you don't have to live in Lithuania anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you can live in you may have to live in a state like, you know, Iowa or something, but, you know, hey, it's
America's
not
Lithuania.
America's not perfect, but, you know, it's not Uzbekistan.
It's not
or
fucking
anything.
Lithuania, yeah.
So that brings us to our next chapter, what we're actually here to talk about. The W.
Wow.
Isn't
Zach,
she lovely?
We can edit this out as well, but who is that silhouette? Do we know?
I don't.
Because I know,
Google
like,
it really quick.
Okay. Because I know the NBA is Jerry West, like the Lakers legend, who then becomes the coach and then like general manager of the Jerry Bus Lakers that, you know, blow the NBA up into what it is that you're talking about.
This one specifically is not based off of anybody.
Oh, okay.
Weird.
It's just a graphic, apparently. Yeah.
It's every woman.
It's all the women, all of them.
Woman, it's always me.
Okay, so
Did John Tesh make a song for the WNBA?
They did not.
If not, not equal.
It's true.
Calling it now.
God, someone called Tesh right now and tell him we need you again, dog.
They form a league. It's April 24th, 1996, and the NBA cleared a female counterpart to their league. Set to begin May of 1997, so in a full year. These are the three pillars of the WNBA. They're a part of the We Got Next campaign. You have Lisa Leslie, Rebecca Lobo, and Cheryl Swoops. Again, great basketball name.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
The league introduces an 8-team league. As you can see down here, there it is. You got New York Liberty, Houston Comets,
I know these names.
Cleveland Rockers, the Charlotte Sting, the Utah Stars with 2 Z's.
Oh,
Very 90s, more Z's, more better.
Sacramento Monarchs?
Sacramento Monarchs.
Hell yeah, got it.
Where are the Mercury from, guys?
Miami?
Yeah, wouldn't it be?
Oh, wait, no. Phoenix.
Phoenix Mercury.
Because it's like Heat Mercury,
Yeah.
you
What's
know,
in
your
thermometers?
Hornets, you Sting. A lot of them did that.
And then in the middle,
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Los Angeles. I forgot about you, Los
Sparks.
Angeles. So the team
and Lisa Leslie.
Lisa Leslie misses LA Sparks. Like when I think of the LA Spark, I think of Lisa Leslie.
Presumably your number 1 overall pick for the whole league. Like the start of the league in the draft.
Right.
Lisa Leslie's going number 1. The person who can put up 200 points a game feasibly, get her on your team.
Well, what was interesting about the initial draft, the inaugural draft, it was it had 3 tiers, 3 levels to it, which the first level was allocation, which every team was given a player. That's where these 3 were divvied out. These are your top 3 picks.
Makes sense.
But they were
if you-
already like free agency signed to these specific teams. Lisa Leslie to LA, Rebecca Lobo to New York. It was like the celebrity deal. If we're going to make a league, we're going to make sure the big markets have a big player in it, right?
Yeah.
And then your second...
America knows these things from the Olympics.
Exactly. And then you had your elite draft, and that was players who are not just out of college. They're players from overseas that have showcased.
Or
You.
the
It could be
Olympic team.
Europeans. It could just be your ex-college athletes who are now playing somewhere else. Or, like, say, a Cheryl Miller could play if she wanted to put herself in the draft, if she wanted to, if she felt she was up for it. Same with Doris Burke. Doris Burke, 12 years removed from college, but she could have submitted herself into the draft if she wanted to. And then your third tier was rookies, straight out of college. And that's what filled up the WNBA rosters. And then we got Cynthia. Cynthia's going to be Cynthia's huge. Here she is, rocking the jersey in the demos. And what's interesting, what's going to come up, I'll just say it now, is she was the elusive one. She's the one that they really wanted to be in the league because she's a great player. But Cheryl Swoops played for the same team, and she's the pillar of the team. She's the one that they put on the billboards. But Cynthia outshined her so much. It's crazy how that you never know how it's going to pan out once you give her the opportunity to play at home. She's going to outshine. She was an unpredictable shining star.
I mean, it's the opposite of a success story, but it happens in all sports at all times, where it's just kind of like it's that most valuable player that does absolutely dick all.
Yeah.
the second they're in the jersey and playing the
bust.
game.
Yeah.
I mean but that's like sports though. I mean, like Cheryl Miller, her time was before all 3 of these ladies. So like it wasn't like she was, fresh out of college or fresh off of the Olympic team like these ladies were. And I mean, that's the case in all athletics. Like, your star can only shine so bright for so long, but inevitably another star will like shine brighter than you.
Well, I want to make sure there are 2 Cheryls. Cheryl Miller did not play in the WNBA. Cheryl Swoops is the pillar of the Houston Comets. And she was not too far removed from college. I think she was a part of that. She was a part of the Olympic team, so she's a very fresh body. But regardless, good statement. So let's move on to the next slide, which is another solstice day, guys. Something big. It's June 21st of 1997. Oh. You got your main markets going up against each other in Inglewood at the old place where the Lakers used to play. You got the New York Liberty playing against the LA.
The Forum.
The Forum, yeah. No, yeah, the Forum. Yeah, exactly. That place. So someone named Penny Toller would score the first points in the newly established league. The Liberty, New York, would end up winning. There was 14,000 people in attendance, not a bad crowd, and it was televised on ABC, I believe. And so the new league is started. They've begun, and it kind of fell short because your two main markets did not win. Houston ended up winning, which is a big market, but you want LA or New York to win, right?
Fourth biggest city in America?
Yeah.
Houston?
Yeah,
it's
still
huge.
It's behind
New York,
Chicago.
LA, Chicago, Houston. So still a massive market, but yes, not one of your coastal elites.
Well, that and we all know, like, each of those three cities spawn 2 to 3 sports teams usually for any given sport. So it's sort of like, let's hope this makes enough money in LA or New York so we can expand and get another team, get more going on in this.
Houston did go up against New York. Rebecca Lobo, the pillar of the league, did go to the finals, but inevitably lost to Houston. And here we have Cynthia Cooper celebrating the inaugural championship goes to Houston, as well as the second one.
Oh, dang.
As well as the third one.
Oh, what?
As well as the fourth one.
Well, you might as well just kill this league now. It's just the Comets League.
It's Jover. It's so Jover.
I mean, you could say the same thing about the NFL.
Yeah.
Who won the first Super Bowl? Green Bay Packers. Who won the second Super Bowl? Green Bay Packers.
Oh, yeah.
They were like dynasties stats back then.
Yeah, the dynasties at the beginning of a league isn't terribly uncommon of a thing to see.
No, but it gives everyone an enemy, a common enemy.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, someone's got to be the villain.
That you just like, Joe, no, they're not getting it 3 years in a row. Oh, fuck.
But boyos, believe you me, the haters win in the story of the Comets. We will get to that in a bit, but there are some things to discuss here on how big of a success and to kind of tailor for you to wrap your head around a new league making their own rules as how they celebrate things. So we have the parade, of course. This is common with sports. They have the 4 championships. Yeah. But what is important is the banners we have over here. The first 4 seasons were championships. And then you have already Cynthia Cooper's number is retired. Then the next...
She's still playing, isn't she?
No.
Okay.
In the next slide, we will talk about franchises leaving, and the Comets are no longer in Houston.
Oh, okay.
They're no longer a team. The haters won. But they retired her number before they disbanded as a team. This league has just turned 25. So this is a very quick system to honor somebody. And then you have them already retiring the number 1 for the fans. And then you have Kim, how did you pronounce? Kim Para, who was a player for the Comets that was in 1999 diagnosed with cancer. And she ended up passing away during the 1999 season due to lung cancer. So she was the first number retired in the WNBA, and it was 2 seasons in to the league. Very powerful, very cool in my perspective, that the honor just moves so fast. Whereas contrastly, in other leagues, your NFL, your NBA, MLB, they take forever to acknowledge the power somebody had to the game or the respect that was necessary, or like the thank you, the gesture of the number retirement. It seems like it needs to be a push to get them in the Hall of Fame or some thing. There has to be some other agenda instead of just giving them their flowers. You know what I mean?
Well, that and given the history of organized women's sports and what happened in especially like 70s, 80s with only like 3 years between two organizations, it's sort of like, well, fuck, we're hanging that jersey. Like,
Yeah.
no, we're celebrating this woman's life. Like, we're gonna hold our pennants high and you know, make sure all this shit gets into the awards now. Otherwise, like, because we never know, this could not be around in 5 years. We want it
Yeah.
to be around. So let's start making a lasting legacy right from like the first step.
Yeah, I mean, not to like disparage the death of this woman, but it could be a part of like a perception as reality. And if we begin to build like, we have these historical things like retired
yes.
numbers, it makes it presents the air of like, oh no, this is a league with like history and tradition, and should be kept around.
I
as
didn't
an institution.
I didn't want to do it discredit by when you were talking about like the sequel to the Dream Team, but I was going to call it like the Shake and Bake Dream Team. Not as a discredit, but just sort of like, oh god, what can we quickly throw together with what we have? Throw it in the oven. It's you know, it's not as finely crafted as the other one, but we're gonna throw all the money we can at it. And the WNBA, at least in its beginning, sounds similar.
Yeah.
Question mark? Like money, tons of money thrown at it to make sure that it at least gets some sort of footing.
And that's widely on display here on the next slide, where we have our timeline of teams. The original 6, and then you start to see things falling off, especially right here in and okay, what we should start with is the immediate expansion. Right after your first season, you're opening up a franchise in Washington and Detroit, and then you follow suit with the same business plan the very next year and the very next year. They are constantly adding teams to the league for competition, due to the partnership that they had with the NBA. All of these are NBA markets. So these are partner teams. These are sister teams to the NBA. That's why they're able to pull this off. You have a team in Orlando and they use the same facility. Minnesota, Detroit, Washington, all of these cities have NBA teams. But in 2002, the WNBA sold off the teams to the NBA counterparts. It was no longer a partnership. You would have to buy the team and keep it and facilitate it, or disband it. And that is what occurred here with Miami and Portland. They were in the league for just 2 years before the NBA made them purchase the teams, and they said, "No, we're good, dog."
The safety net support of the of the NBA basically just fell out from
the Allen
underneath
family,
everybody.
In their strong tradition of not supporting the basketball teams that they own, immediately said, "Nah, we're good."
Yeah, we're good, dog. And what had initially happened in Cleveland was the owner said, "Yeah, I'll go for that. Sounds good, bet." And then a year later, he was like, "Actually, I'm good. Thanks for the opportunity." And then you see things like the Charlotte Sting in 2006. They stopped operating because the Bobcats of Charlotte, the NBA counterpart, stopped operating as well. So the whole tent fell down.
Okay.
Atlanta gets a team, and then you expand again. You try it again. Chicago gets a team. Atlanta gets a team. You have Utah moving because of the ownership change. San Antonio can facilitate them. And it's really weird how they went from Silver Stars just to Stars. It seems like it's. We're gonna rebrand real quick, and then we're gonna go to Las Vegas, guys.
I mean, when in doubt, rebrand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When in doubt, go to Vegas, as all sports teams do.
So here lies all the former WNBA team logos. My favorite being the Miami Soul.
I like the Soul. From a graphic design perspective, I like the Soul, but Cleveland Rockers I didn't quite get, but now that I see that logo, I'm like, I'm cool with this.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Sacramento Monarchs looks like it's going to be the worst fucking $50 magic show that I've ever seen in my life. Could we go back one slide? I just have something to ask. I just have a dumb joke because I'm so fixated on all this purple that then I go, oh, the Golden State Valkyries. And then the Toronto WNBA team, which makes me think, like, is it a racist slur?
No.
Which I know it's coming in the future.
Yeah.
It has not
to
been
be
named
named.
yet. But it was just like, oh man, you should have heard the name we were gonna give this team, and now
They're
it's
not the Washington football team.
The Toronto Slurs. Perfect. Here lies the Salt. The Sting are also pretty good. The Monarchs, I really did not get. This is definitely a product of like Disney in the 90s. Like this seems like it's supposed to be Malevolent. Was that what the witch's name is?
Maleficent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how the Charlotte Stage is the Hornets logo, but they glued on some eyelashes.
It just has some eyelashes.
Dolled it
Why
up.
not? Portland Fire looks like it was made in like MS
Word.
Paint.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Word clip
This is-
art.
clip art from Word,
Which
which was a Paul Allen owned venture. So, all of them fall under the Microsoft banner in terms of where the money came from. So it actually very likely could be clip art from Word.
okay, so
Well-
we're moving forward here, guys. We're getting to our
R.I.P..
next chapter, which is this is not a political statement. And we're gonna talk about some fallbacks or some parts about the WNBA that define it, and also stuff obviously we're gonna talk about that you don't agree with. And we're gonna start with the pay differential. These are the graphics I could find. We all live in 2024 and we live under the knowledge that there is a wage disparity between the genders.
Wait, what?
Pardon?
Nani?
And so this is us talking about it. This is a slide to address that. And ironically, not ironic, but interestingly enough, Sue Bird and LeBron James had 17 seasons. I mean, LeBron's still going, but they have a side-by-side comparison of accomplishments that can be boiled down to championships, salary, bonuses for winning the championship. And it is quite a different number. This factors into how the league operates. You have your rookie scale over here, and this is as of 2024. So, to be a top 4 pick, you're looking to make $76,000, which is nice amount of money, but it is leaps and bounds lower than an NBA top 4 pick gets to make in that.
Great amount. That's a good salary if you're working like a skilled office job.
Yeah.
Not if you're a professional
Not
athlete
if you're the best of the best first round pick.
who's on national television every day.
Who's had to pay out maybe got a scholarship, but also has to pay for just being at college.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so this comes into a factor. This comes into play on the negotiations of the league, the CBA. For the NBA, you have to play for the NBA, but in the WNBA, you can still take your talents overseas. And that is what a lot of players do. Due to the disparaging wage difference, they supplement their lifestyle and their income by playing their off seasons in Europe for other teams. This drives in money for
a
them.
certain
They're
player on
also
the left.
Yeah, no, I see a recognizable person on the left.
Yeah.
we're gonna get there, boys. This drives in more money for them, and when they are overseas, they have access to better healthcare than America offers. But to dismay, players can get injured, and it ruins their contract for the WNBA. And in some instances, some other things can happen. We'll start with Diana and Brittany. These are teammates in Phoenix, the Phoenix Mercury. Diana has been in the league since 2004. And it's 2024? She's been in the league for 20 years. Oh my gosh. Wow. Time flies, dude. She played at UConn in college, University of Connecticut, with the GOAT Sue Bird, where they won a bunch of championships. And right out of college, she was drafted to the Phoenix Mercury. The way the pipeline of women's basketball goes is March, you have your March Madness. That's a national pastime. It's the same time for men and women. And then the WNBA draft occurs in April. And women in the March Madness, once they lose, they have a week to declare if they want to go into the draft or if they want to go play somewhere else or do something else. They have to make up that mind quick. And then in April, you're drafted. In May, your season starts. So you've been training up until May. September is the playoffs. And then in November, the Euro League starts. And that's where a lot of players go to showcase their talents. In April.
So you could essentially, I mean, live a hard lifestyle, but do it year round.
And that's exactly what Diana did for a long time. In fact, in this photo here in the bottom, Brittany and Diana win the championship 2014. And the Russian Premier League team that Diana plays for, UMMC Ekaterinburg, they were going to double her salary to not play the next season. So she took them up on it. She sat out the 2015 season of the WNBA after just winning a championship because she would be paid $1.5 million as opposed to her $107,000 she would be paid to play that season. And this obviously disrupted a lot of the system because the WNBA wasn't happy players would go overseas, especially veterans. Diana was in her 11th season and that she decided to sit out her 11th season. So they were upset about it. And so in the CBA, they didn't have much to negotiate, but they allowed for more money as an incentive to a veteran to stay in the States rather than go play overseas. It's only $60,000 per team. They get to allot to veterans to supplement the contract. But it's
they get a base model Toyota Tacoma to split up amongst all the veterans. Cool.
Yeah. So people still do go overseas. Go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, this is, I don't mean to derail, but it's a complicated question, and with, I assume, a much more complicated answer. Why doesn't the WNBA make money? Because they do draw some people, but it feels like why do they pay their players so little in that aspect? Because they're still getting TV deals. I mean, I know it's not as popular per capita as NBA, but still. Well, I didn't know the disparity was like the
LeBron contract's pretty expensive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah.
Well, the Curry contract's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Like, there's, I mean, you know, you got the same owners. You either have most of these teams are owned by the same person.
Gotcha.
I should have brought that up. If we go back a couple slides to that graphic, at the time, the Connecticut Sun were sold off to a private company. So that was the first instance of a WNBA not being owned by a partner NBA. And then Tulsa followed suit, and then you have LA as well. And then when the Sonics left right around Schmier, the Storm were sold off. So there are private companies that own these basketball teams again. But I think the disparaging is the women of the WNBA do make this is you'll hear this argument a lot when the whole debate of this comes up, but they do make more money percentage wise from the WNBA than NBA players make out of the NBA. Like women make the women make like 60% of the WNBA profit. But it's not a lot is the thing. They aren't driving in. The next episode, we'll have another episode about the WNBA, but it is only now gaining traction. And it's only in its 26th year or 25th or 6th year, or it's almost in its 30th year, my bad. But it is still not the robust train that a lot of other sports are, but it's getting there. We're just in a crazy transitional period to get there. So Diana would go overseas, and so would her friend and teammate in Phoenix, Brittany Griner. They are both Olympians for the United States. And Brittany would play in Russia. I think they played for the same team, the UMMC, at one point. So Brittany Griner, I think we all know much about her through what happened in the news, but Brittany Griner was in Russia, flying throughout Russia, and she was stopped for a bag search where they found 2 canisters of marijuana oil from a vape pen that she had a prescription for in the United States, but she's in Russia. It was found in her bags when they searched her bags. So she was put in prison, in Russian prison, and she was used as a political negotiation. which we will see here. This is the cell that Britney was kept in for how long was it? It was about
like 3 years.
It wasn't
years?
3 years. She was arrested in 2022. February 17th, 2022, she was arrested. And then this photo here, the exchange, took place December 8th, 2022. So she spent about 10 months.
Almost a year.
Longer.
Almost a year.
It felt like a long time. It really felt like a long time when it was in the news. So Britney was used as a bargaining chip with Russia to get back Victor Bout, which I can't recall what his nickname was, but it was like the Arbinger of Death or something like that. Do you guys recall?
Yeah.
What his like street name was?
What did he do?
He was like a arms salesman, and yeah,
he's like the better Bill Burr, but instead of selling you a huge Chevy, he's selling you used guns.
Sounds like a lot of fucking weapons.
A lot
to
of weapons.
He's selling you boom
having
sticks.
those weapons. Yeah.
So that's another.
I think he was the Merchant of Death.
Merchant of Death. Yes, that's it. So this is another defining moment in the WNBA. And it did happen more recently. We're going to take a couple steps back in the next slides. But this is something that has shaped the WNBA because they always had Britney's back. They were not going to let whatever propaganda of Britney shouldn't have been having weed in Russia. She's an American abroad. They were going to let those narratives dictate if she is still their champion and their hero. And the whole league got behind her, not just the team, not just her teammates, but the whole league got behind her. And that is a narrative of the WNBA that we'll see. And it is also, in fact, which when we get to our next slides, it involves a lot of Black Lives Matter, which Britney was also a part of demonstrations and protests of that. And she would comment when she represented the Olympics this year. She was asked, like, how does it feel to like represent the country? Like, what does the flag mean to you now that you've been a part of an international like scandal like this? Like, you for a long time you put down America because of how it represents, how it's hurting you and people of you. But now that it has gone to bat for you, how do you feel? And she says she's very conflicted when the national anthem comes up. Like, how does the feeling she has is very conflicting because she's been used in multiple ways as a person for the country. Anyway, we're going to get to real activism by real people in a real league that defines this league. And we're going to talk about 2016, which is when a lot of people came online to activism and discrimination. So our image on the left is of the Minnesota Lynx after Philando Castile and Alton Sterling were killed. On July 9th, they had they read a statement before their game during a press conference where Lindsay Whalen, Maya Moore, Rebecca Brunson, and Simone Augustus just made a political stand. And of course, there were a lot of fallout. There was off-duty police that were hired security for the basketball game that night that, of course, had their butthurtness, and they kicked sand and walked off the job that night. And then the very next night, they
caught the blue flu.
No.
The blue flu. Oh wow, that's too good. As the dominoes fall and inspiration takes place across the league, the Minnesota Lynx, the team, also posted this on Twitter. It was not just these players doing this or like press reporting. The team was behind the protest. The next night in New York, the New York Liberty come out with shirts representing the Dallas Five, which I had forgotten about this because life happens, so much stuff happens. This was
so much injustice.
So much
injustice happens over the course of a week.
We live in a fucking nightmare country where fucking citizens are gunned down.
Tragedy is white noise.
Mercilessly for a fucking myriad of reasons. None of them good.
So the Liberty protest as well, and I will remind you guys, this is before Colin Kaepernick makes his grandstand. This is before Colin Kaepernick makes it cool. These ladies are taking a stand before somebody set the bar, before a man set the bar to say, this is how you protest these things. So the teams were behind them. And then this last one down here. This is Tina Charles of the Liberty, also, so this same team, accepting Player of the Month, and did not want to represent, and wore her warm-up jersey inside out as a form of protest to the league fining the teams and the players for their protest. So what also makes these stakes a little heavier is that these women, the wage disparity of these women, they are fined still, and their image is being run through the mud for their public outcries. So the risk is so much higher for them, but they still go ahead and speak for what they want. And it got to a point of the fining of the league not drawing the line in the sand, making statements, that the players stopped responding to questions during press interviews. They would only respond to questions about police brutality. They wouldn't answer like, what do you think about how you did today? What about the assist you got in the third quarter? They would not answer anything. They took a vocal protest, which is pretty badass. And it all keeps going. The next year in 2017, after Donald Trump says owners of sports teams should fire the players that protest,
fire those sons of bitches.
Yep, the sons, exactly.
Get them off the field.
The Minnesota Lynx and the LA Spark were in the WNBA finals, and the Lynx came out and linked arms during the national anthem, where the Spark stayed in the locker room during the national anthem. And then they came out as it wrapped up, very, very, to make a demonstration of how they felt about these things. And it doesn't stop, because, you know, we all lived through 2020, and there was a lot going on, like the Seattle Storm winning the 2020 WNBA Finals. Let's go, chat. Let's go, boys. Let's go. Not really.
We finally mentioned the
That's
Storm.
Not really what I want to talk
barely
about.
Mentioned them before.
I want to talk more about sad activism stuff that occurred in our time. In 2020, when Breonna Taylor was shot during a raid at her residence, during the bubble era of sports, you had very dystopic footage coming out because there's no crowd, there's nobody talking. The production team is not backing this with a bed of music to tell you how to feel. You just have to live in the silence of this. So we have the Breonna Taylor protest, and then you have Jacob Blake, and the back of these Jacob Blake shirts were the bullets that he took in the back. And then we're going to move to more lighter notes. But these are actions that the WNBA has put their foot down. And in 2020 now, it is a part of their culture. It is not people speaking out of character. This is the character. When injustice bears its head, the WNBA will speak on it. This is Kelly Loeffler here on the right side here. She is a partial owner of the Atlanta Fever. Is it the Fever? Yeah.
It's the Dream.
It's the Dream. It's the Atlanta Fever. It's the Indiana Fever, the Atlanta Dream. Kelly Loeffler was appointed to a Senate seat after Isaacson resigned the seat. So is it called a runoff election when someone the re-election that they were appointed to?
The governor can just appoint if a senator abdicates or is forced to abdicate their seat, the governor of the state can just appoint a senator.
Right. Which
oftentimes is some rich piece of shit who they owe a lot of favors to.
Which just so happens to be the case for Kelly. She, as a partial owner, she wrote a letter to Kathy Engelbert, the commissioner of the WNBA, the current commissioner. Val Ackerman, shout out to Val Ackerman from way back in the presentation, who organized the women's 1996 basketball team, became the commissioner of the WNBA. I forgot to mention that part. But now it is Kathy Engelbert. Kelly wrote a letter to the commissioner asking that we need less politics in sports. In a time when polarizing politics is as divisive as ever, sports has the power to be a unifying antidote. And to which Engelbert suspended all operations for Loeffler with the team, because she is a part owner of the Atlanta Dream, into which the team players of the team she owns made a campaign effort for the man running against her in the upcoming election, Warnock, who ended up winning. The WNBA flipped a seat, and Reverend Warnock became the first black senator in Georgia history.
Also, part of the reason why Kelly Loeffler didn't get to continue her spot in United States Congress is she was amongst a sting of, or not a sting really, but like amongst a group of Republicans that had been found to be engaging in insider trading. Her and her husband were using the information that she was receiving because of the committees that she was a part of in Congress to buy and sell stock based off of information that wasn't readily available to the public yet, which is a financial crime.
Yeah.
That's why her ass didn't get an opportunity to make it to the Georgia runoffs.
She's even wearing a white collar down in the bottom left.
How about that?
It's a white collar crime.
I knew I recognized the name from somewhere before it pulled up, and the face. I didn't know she had ties to the Atlanta Dream, but as soon as you said Kelly Loeffler, I was like, yeah. I know that name.
I know some of these words. So this is what the tone of the WNBA is. When I think of the WNBA, I think of being on the cutting edge of participating in progressive ideas.
The league in and of itself is a progressive idea.
Exactly.
It's a dynamo.
Where is this line I was thinking of? The WNBA actually also has created an organization to combat anti-trans policies that are trying to be pushed through Congress as well. They're very active in creating a world that they want it to make. So protesting and being socially aware is a part of the WNBA. But what to me is the most interesting, and this is how we're going to kind of wrap up. This is the final chapter here, guys. We're already in. What was set in place by David Stern putting an opportunity out for a women's league. This is the final chapter, never touching the ground. What has occurred since 1996, I'm not sure if everybody is aware of this. They've never lost a game. The United States women's basketball team since 1996. All time, they're 78-3. Since then, 2 of those losses came in that first Olympic run. From 1984 to 1988, they were undefeated. In 1992, they suffered 1 loss and they took home bronze. But since then, they've never lost. A team, all they needed was to be backed. I mean, still, even before then, they were a dominating team. 3 losses all time since 1976 in the Olympics. An impressive feat. And as you can see, Diana has been a part of several of these.
Over almost a decade.
Almost a decade. And so that brings us to kind of we're rounding into home here. We're going to talk about this year. The dominating force that is the United States Empire made it to the finals in both the men's and the women's Olympic competition. And fancy enough, both teams went up against the hosting country, France.
See, I wasn't paying attention. Yeah, I wasn't paying attention to Olympics this year, but yeah, that's the narrative writes itself.
France has gone really hard on basketball, knowing that they would have an Olympics in their country for like the past 10 years. Like France isn't necessarily an Olympic basketball
just
powerhouse.
A bunch of people eating baguettes and smoking cigarettes and just training the ultimate basketball player.
But there was something about it, like, we got to get serious about basketball for the 2024.
Dude, seriously. And they did too. I mean, they made it to the finals. And this guy is going to take over the NBA. Victor Wembanyama, he played his first season last year. He's like 8 feet 20. And look at this image. Ryan, look at this image. This is like from Space Jam. Look at his arms.
He's a very large man.
Still got shot over.
Exactly.
Boom! Suck it, France.
Yeah, suck it, France. Here's some freedom, bitch. And then this is Gabby Williams, who just signed with the Storm after the Olympics. And then this is Asia Wilson, and then this is some guy named LeBron.
Yeah, who's he?
He was also in a Space Jam, I
He
heard.
was also in a
but the one
Space
that-
Jam. Who knew that this show would have 2 Space Jam characters in it?
Oh my
all
god.
of them. All of the
All
Space
Spa-
Jam stars.
So
And he didn't have to play baseball either.
No.
So the story sets itself, right? You have the women going up against each other in the finals. What's on the line? The undefeated streak and the gold.
Mhm.
They've had how many is that straight since 96? 6?
That would be 28 years
20
if they win this year. So 20 year or yeah.
Their
28.
seven
24.
gold medal streak is on the line. And over the course of this streak that seemingly nobody knew about until it's been going on since 96. During the streak, the USA women's basketball had never lost, right? That's a fact. But they had never
Mhm.
won a game by less than 10 points only twice. 2 out of these 60 wins were under 10-point win. One time they
So
blew
not
out a
only
team
are
by
they
60
winning-
points. Typically, they're blowing them out by 30 points.
That was
Yeah.
probably Lisa
Yeah.
Leslie just fucking destroying shit.
She was putting up hundreds.
That was her flu game. She was just like she was feeling under the weather, so she only put up 60.
So then let's go to the game. Let's go to the game in the final seconds.
Oh.
The U.S. is down by 10 points in the fourth quarter. They've never really been down before.
Is it a one game decision?
Yep.
Sort of deal?
One
Okay.
ring
Finals,
to
okay.
one ring to rule them all.
Gotcha.
So let's fast forward to U.S. is ahead by 4 with 6 seconds left in the game. It's pretty much sealed. That's 4-point game. But Gabby Williams comes down the court in a record speed. They get her the ball. She shoots. It's good. Only a 1.1 seconds off the clock. 4.9 seconds left remaining. And France fouls somebody on the inbound. That gets you straight to the foul line. There's 2 free points if you can make the ball in twice. Not to speed through it here, but Kalia Copper from the U.S. makes both. It's 67-64. 3.8 seconds left on the clock. A 3-pointer is going to send this game into overtime for France. So they inbound the ball. Gabby Williams is all the way down there. Look at that, right at the 3-point line, and she shoots, and it goes in as the buzzer goes off.
Yep, the
Picturesque.
backboard's lit up.
But it was a 2-pointer.
Foot's over the line.
Oh no.
And the USA wins gold by 1 point to extend their
USA.
streak.
USA.
Diana Taurasi gets her 6th gold medal. She's the only human on the planet to win 6 gold medals in a team sport. The women dominate a sport that they had to fight to get in a game that they had to fight to play. And they leave a reckless streak of bodies in their way. And they've never, ever gone to an Olympics that they didn't stand on the podium. And they get the deep fried meme treatment, all courtesy of Clutch Points. The girls did it. The ladies did
No.
it. They represented America again and again and again and over and over and over again. They keep winning. And it's something I don't think anybody has ever talked about. You see the meme about Harry Potter supposed to take place during the 1990s, but you never hear anybody talking about that Michael Jordan guy's having a run, right? It feels like that's what's happening here in women's basketball. That they have gone on an incredible run, a historic run. Diana Taurasi is one of one in Olympics, much like a Michael Phelps, but you'd never know it. It's very modest. There's nobody out there that's going to give the flowers. So here we are in the tail end of our episode, giving the flowers to Diana and all the U.S. Women's basketball team for what an
Hell
accomplishment.
yeah.
So then, guys, next time on Tales from the Slide Deck, we're going to talk about the thing I actually set out to make when I wanted to make this episode, which is the People versus Caitlin Clark. And this is the story I wanted to tell, but I had to tell so much more because where Caitlin comes in on the mountain, we have traversed so much below sea level to get to where we're on land now. And what Caitlin is going to bring to the game and is bringing to the game is something special. But before we end the episode, there is one final person, anybody who knows women's basketball. It would be a shame if we didn't talk about this one person, and that is Nancy Lieberman, who has been at every point in the game of women's basketball. She was a part of the 1976 silver medal team. And when the WBL was formed, she was the number 1 draft pick. She has coached men's basketball in the G League. She was drafted by the Phoenix Mercury at the age of 39 in the inaugural WNBA draft, to which she then retired after that year. She was 39. She just wanted to play in it to say she played in it.
Nice.
She is coaching in Ice Cube's Big 3 league right now, where she has won a championship. And when she was, wow, how old was she? It was 2008. Oh my gosh. In 2008, she signed with the Detroit Shock at the age of 52.
Did she like also own a part of the team and had to come out of retirement like Jordan for the Wizards?
No, but
like what precipitated this?
But it was more like just a goodbye, because it wasn't for a season. It was for one game, and she played 5 minutes, I want to say, and got 2 assists, put up 1 shot. But she did coach for Detroit right after she had retired from the game as a Mercury. She went to go coach the Detroit Shock until they disbanded. She has a statue of her outside of her college, Old Dominion.
Nice.
And through all scopes of the game, she has always been the carrier of the torch for everybody. She's been a color commentator. I always get that wrong. Color commentator during NBA games. And she doesn't have many accolades. I mean, she does have her gold medal or her silver medal, but she has been the person holding the hand of everybody else that came behind her. She was the one holding the light as everybody walked through the dark tunnel. So Nancy Lieberman, shout out to you. And that is my episode, gentlemen, on the beginning of women's basketball, professional women's basketball.
Well done.
Hell yeah, brother.
I assume many more episodes to follow.
There's so much more to talk
You got
about.
some big
There's
ones.
so many more classes of the game. Like Caitlin, and like even before that,
Aja.
Ella Della Dawn is a big one. Yeah. And
Hell yeah.
at a time too, I finished this right at the end of the Olympics too. It had to end that way. All right, y'all. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of Tales from the Slide Deck. Appreciate you watching this. Follow us on the socials and everything. I'm Zach.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Tay-Rob.
Tales from the Slide.